So let's break down what's happening with immigration and customs enforcement, ICE. There's this huge national conflict escalating right now, and it's a big one. It all kicked off with a federal operation in just one city, but it's since exploded into this firestorm of protests, major lawsuits, and a really intense debate about what law enforcement in America is supposed to look like, or maybe what it's supposed to perform. All right, let's kick things off with this really provocative idea from analyst David Frum. What if the whole point of sending in these federal agents isn't just about enforcing immigration law? What if it's actually about creating a show, creating content for a very specific audience? Let's just keep that idea, law enforcement as a kind of performance, in the back of our minds as we dig into how we got to this point. To really get why things are so heated, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to start in Minneapolis, with a deadly encounter that basically became the spark for this whole national fire. Okay, so January 6th, a federal immigration operation gets underway in Minnesota. But then, just a few days later, things turn tragic. An agent, Jonathan Ross, shoots and kills a woman named Renee Good. And that one incident, well, it didn't stay a local story for long. It lit a fuse, and protests started erupting all over the country. In the days that followed, videos started popping up online, and they showed federal agents using some incredibly aggressive tactics. I mean, we're talking about agents breaking into homes with their weapons out, going door to door, searching places without warrants, even guarding the bathrooms in a Target. And seeing all this, it just immediately made people ask, is this normal? Is this how it's supposed to work? Or was this whole thing designed to be seen? So that's what was happening on the ground. Now, let's turn to the official response, because the story the administration is telling about all this is a huge part of the conflict. The White House came out and 100% defended the agents. The official line, which you can see here from spokesperson Abigail Jackson, is that these officers are nothing less than heroes, just doing their jobs to protect American communities. And right here, this is the absolute core of the administration's argument, and it's coming straight from the president. The reason given for the fatal shooting of Renee Good wasn't a legal one. It was about her being, quote, disrespectful. Now, this completely changes the conversation, right? It's not about the law anymore, it's about deference. And this is where that whole idea of performance gets really, really explicit. You have both sides literally accusing the other of cosplaying, of just playing a part. The administration's supporters are calling protesters cosplaying revolutionaries, gangs of wine moms. And on the other side, protesters are looking at these ICE agents decked out in tactical gear and saying they're cosplaying as military heroes. So this isn't just a simple disagreement anymore. It's a full-blown battle over who's being authentic and who's just putting on a show. But that official story, it is being met with some powerful, organized resistance. And that resistance is now moving from the streets and heading straight for the courtroom. You've got opponents like Congressman Jamie Raskin, who are just hammering this disrespect argument, saying, hold on a second, that has zero basis in American law. And then he makes this really sharp comparison to the January 6th Capitol attack, basically saying if we applied that standard to everyone, the outcome would have been a catastrophe. And this resistance has some serious teeth. The state of Illinois is now suing the Department of Homeland Security over what it calls unlawful and dangerous tactics. Meanwhile, up in Minnesota, the Attorney General has sued, calling the whole operation a federal invasion. He says the agents are acting more like occupiers than officers of the law. I mean, these are massive legal challenges to federal power. And, this isn't just an external fight. The conflict is happening inside the government itself. That number you see, 6, that's how many career prosecutors have reportedly resigned from the Justice Department's own Civil Rights Division in protest. It's a huge sign that the official story is causing a real crisis, even on the inside. Okay, so this brings us right back to where we started, back to that initial idea. Let's try to put a name on this very public, very aggressive style of law enforcement that we've been seeing. You have to ask the question, right? If these methods aren't standard, and if they're causing this much legal and public blowback, then what is the real goal here? What could it possibly be? Well, David Frum puts a name to it. He calls it theatrical violence. And the theory is pretty straightforward. The point isn't just enforcement. It's a performance of power. It's all about using very visible, almost symbolic force to send a clear message to your political supporters. Look, your government is punishing the people you don't like. So according to this theory, the goals of this theater are pretty clear. Step 1, show everyone that the MAGA movement is in control of the state. Step 2, punish that disrespect we heard about earlier. And Step 3, create those powerful, shareable video clips that project strength and get the message out to your supporters. It really does connect all the dots. All right, so that's the theory behind the strategy. But the real question is, how is this performance playing with the general public? Is it actually working the way it was intended?
Well, a recent poll from The Economist and YouGov shows something pretty stunning. Just look at these numbers. For what looks like the first time, a plurality of American adults, that's 46%, now say they support abolishing ICE completely. That is a huge shift in public opinion. It kind of suggests the performance might be having an unintended consequence, turning a bigger part of the audience against the agency itself.
And you're hearing this kind of sentiment from some really unexpected places. I mean, Joe Rogan, who endorsed Trump in 2024, made this really stark comparison on his show. That's a huge sign that this concern is breaking way outside of the usual political bubbles.
And beyond the polls and the podcasts, you can see the pushback happening on the ground in actual communities. People are organizing, not just to protest, but to create their own safety networks. They're putting together squads to watch for agents and send out alerts, escorting kids to school. It's this very real grassroots rejection of what's happening. And this isn't some abstract political debate happening on TV anymore. The tension is spilling over into everyday life. You've got a union worker at a Ford plant who shouted an insult during a recent presidential visit and got suspended immediately. It's just one little moment, but it shows you how on edge and polarized the whole country has become. Which really leaves us with this final, crucial question to think about. In this whole escalating fight over stories, over power, over what justice even means, when the tools of the state are being used not just to enforce the law, but to put on a show, what happens to the very idea of the rule of law itself?